Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to another Sunday Kids Zone. It's great that you're tuning in with us this morning, and it's just been fantastic that over the past couple of weeks and months that we've been able to explore so many stories in the Bible during the lockdown period, and we've had so many incredible people from the church have been able to tell us those stories. But today, I want to ask you a question right at the start. And my question for you is, do you think that you are a wise person, or do you think that you are a foolish person? Now, I would give you a few seconds to answer that question, but I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say. Because if you're anything like me, I would say that I think I'm a pretty wise person. Because if someone comes up to me and calls me foolish, it's not a nice thing to be called foolish. In fact, if someone called me foolish, I would feel kind of sad inside because being known as a fool is not a nice thing. So we like to think that we're wise. Am I right? Did you say wise? I'm pretty sure you did. But the story today that we're going to take a look at is a story of a wise man and a foolish man. And this will help us maybe better answer that question. So at the end of our story, I'm going to ask you the same question and I'm going to see what you still think, whether you're wise or foolish. So without further ado, let's get into the story. So our story today is found in Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 to 27 in your Bibles if you want to follow along or maybe you want to read the story after this. But this story is of a wise man and a foolish man. Because once there was these two men who decided to build a house. The foolish man, he built his house on sand. He thought this would be a great idea. Look, beach location, it looks great, doesn't it? Right beside the water. How great does this look? I'll build my house here. But then the rains came and the land flooded. And well, you can see what happened to his house. The house collapsed. It was destroyed. It got ruined. The water just completely destroyed the house. And well, you can see by this picture that the man, he's not very happy. He's quite sad. But the wise man, he decided that he was going to build his house on the rock. So when the rains came and the flood landed, guess what happened? His house remained standing. He had built his house on solid foundation, while the other man, the foolish man, he had built it on sand. And now, when you look at this picture, you can see who's the happy one and who's the sad one. So now we're going to ask ourselves a very important question. What does this story teach us about Jesus? And also, how does it help us grow in our faith? Well, the story in Matthew 7 verses 24, well, this is what Jesus says first. I'll read that. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. So Jesus is saying here, you will be a wise person if you listen to my teaching and you're obedient and you hear what I have to say and you go and you live it out in your life. That is what a wise person does. Jesus is the strong foundation in which we stand on, and there's nothing can take us away from him, and there's nothing that can knock us over if we listen and obey to his teachings. But Jesus also says that anyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. You see, the foolish man built his house on the sand, and well, what happened? Storms came and it knocked it down. And that's like someone who sort of maybe hears the words of Jesus but doesn't do them. That's that person who builds their house on the sand. So the question I want to ask you now again is, are you wise or are you foolish? Are you someone that believes that Jesus is the solid foundation which we stand on? Are you obedient to him? Do you listen to what he says and do you live it out in your life? Or are you not obedient? Do you do your own thing? Do you think that you don't need to listen to Jesus? Only you can answer that question. But it's important that you reflect on this. Are we wise or are we foolish? So now we're going to have Ellen and Eddie are going to give us another song. So I hope you're going to dance along to it and enjoy it. And I will see you next week.
I can do